supply chain diversity, supply chain resilience. So on top of that, still we have to achieve certain cost advantage and bring the benefit in the end to our customer and the end customer of them. It's a very important target for us.
On this episode of Embedded Insiders, Ren Sun, the regional head of MCU marketing and business development at GigaDevice, joins the podcast to share the company's latest developments in the global market, specifically with its GD32 MCU product portfolio and opportunities for the GD32 within humanoid robotics applications. Next, Rich and Rolf Seger, the founder of Seger, discuss ways to simplify the design of embedded applications, a term the company refers to as MApps. Users can have Seger write the apps for them, or they can get an SDK from Seger and do it themselves. The two also dive into TinyML, where it should be and should not be deployed, and why. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Embedded Insiders podcast. I am Assistant Managing Editor Tiara Oliver, and this week Ken is back, our Editor-in-Chief. We've both had a few events and traveling and things going on, but how have you been?
Tired, to be honest. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot happening. So it's glad to be back. I'm glad to be back here on Embedded Insiders. It is much more relaxing to be here. But yeah, we've both been out on the road. You've been closer to home than I at Microchip Masters, right?
Yeah, I went there, I guess it was maybe 2 weeks ago or so. I'm not sure, but close enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first year of them having, media and analysts. I had no idea that this event was going on for like 26 years, but pretty
That's
cool.
wild. I assume most people aren't that familiar with it because they haven't had media there before. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of what it was like?
Yeah, for media and analysts, I think our attendance there was probably different from everyone else, but I mean, I loved being able to go into the room and see all the demos lined up. The demos were very cool. Like each had their own space and section and were so intricate, and each had like about 2 to 3, engineers and people from Microchip to speak about it. So I thought that was very well laid out and very in depth. But I think my favorite was the fact that we got to have like a real quiet and close sit down with Steve Sanghi himself.
Nice.
And I felt like it was a very, I don't know if vulnerable is the right way, but he really dove into the evolution of Microchip and, their strategy to scale the company and kind of just all the phases that they've been through, not even just, highlighting the peaks, but also talking about the lows and how they've tried to turn things around from, from other times. But, they've had like what he referred to as like Microchip 3.0. And I think right now they're in Microchip 4.0, which is like this 9-point plan. But basically he just talked about like the trends and challenges of today and what Microchip's core pillars are, which are, the networking and connectivity, compute, power, AI at the edge. I think those were the most, and of course, like product security and trust. But I took a lot of notes on that. I thought it was just really beneficial and really cool to sit down up close with the CEO.
No, that's awesome. And I'm glad to hear that they're continuing with that strategy. I can't remember if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but back at Embedded World, I sat down with some of the folks from Microchip, and they were talking about those same kinds of issues back at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. And how they were sort of turning in a new direction. The company had been in their sort of estimation and a little bit of a struggle period. So they're pulling back up, they're gaining ground. The uh, so the direction is going in the right direction, it seems like, for Microchip. That's great to hear.
Yeah, and I hope, inviting media and analysts is another thing they continue to do. I would love to go back next year and see what that'll be like, especially an event that's so close in my backyard, Phoenix area. So yeah,
Yeah.
excited to hopefully be invited back.
Yeah, it's funny. We were both supposed to go to that, and it didn't work out because the following week, ended up visiting with NXP up
Right.
in Silicon Valley for their NXP Tech Days, which I hadn't been to before, and it was a really interesting day. We spent a whole day in sessions talking about NXP's strategy and direction going for the next uh, little while, and how they're really focused not just on the things they've always been focused on, silicon for industrial and automotive and those things, but they're also really, one of the things that I found really interesting is that there was a little bit of an unspoken theme throughout a couple of the like talks before we broke out into individual like table discussions,
Hmm.
of NXP talking about their vertical integration and how they really are able to provide a lot of the infrastructure for a full complete solution all the way up to software, and they're providing security and tools for all of that, which is all really exciting and cool. And obviously their main a lot of the focus was in robotics, physical AI, and like industrial automation, and so there was a lot of talk about that, but they also talked about things like their um audio processing tools and hardware and stuff. So it was a really cool day with NXP. I learned a lot. The article probably won't be up by the time you're listening to this, but keep an eye on embeddedcomputing.com for my piece on NXP Tech Days, and I'm sure the coming roundup from Tierra on Microchip.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of visiting businesses, and even our production editor Chad is going away later this week, early next week to visit John Deere. So maybe we can trick him
Yeah.
and get him on the podcast to talk about it.
I'd love that. You folks out there listening may not know about Chad, but he is the silent member of our editorial team, and he is nonstop. He runs all the time, so he's always covering our news and stuff. And I'd love to get him on here, so y'all can meet him. Um, and yeah, he's been covering John Deere for us all year, and some of the really interesting stuff going on there. So make sure you look out for that coverage as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to give a little teaser, Tierra. I almost
Yes.
forgot. So the other thing I did while I was in Silicon Valley is I spent a whole day running all over the valley, and checking and meeting with a bunch of different companies: Infineon, Synaptics, Siemens, EDA, and a lot of others, and doing some video interviews. I set up a little mobile video recording studio, and we recorded some really interesting conversations for a new YouTube show that's going to be going live in September. And it'll be an interview show. We're calling it System Chats, or System Chat. I don't know. We're still workshopping it, but we're calling it System Chat, I think. And the idea is we're going to talk about the various systems that exist within embedded, edge computing, physical AI, and all of the pieces of this industry that we cover with real experts, and these are going to be video conversations that are going to be taking place in person when I can manage it, but sometimes virtually, and you all can reach out to me. I'm sure you know how to get a hold of me if you have someone that you'd like to offer for that discussion series. These discussions are designed to be at the system level, pretty high level. But we're going to dig into technical discussions of solutions and applications. We're going to be talking about sort of big industry issues all the way down to individual use cases. So it should be a lot of fun. So look out for that on our YouTube channel, and subscribe if you don't want to miss an episode.
Very cool. That's right around the corner.
I know it's going to come up real fast. And I'm really excited for it because this will now be another sort of anchor show for our YouTube channel, which I think has been growing at a nice clip. So if you're not subscribed, you got to get in that list, man. You don't want to miss out.
Exactly. Awesome time to remind you guys to like, subscribe, comment, as Ken says, do all the things and let us know what your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And if someone has sent you this podcast in audio form to listen to, they're a good friend. Make sure you buy them a coffee or say thanks somehow, and then subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform as well.
Exactly. Now, here's Ren Sun of Giga Device. Hello, Ren, and thank you for joining me this week on the Embedded Insiders podcast. Before I get into some of the questions I have for you, do you mind just introducing yourself and your role at Giga Device?
Hi, Tira. This is Ren. Yes, I'm very glad to have the opportunity to participate this round podcast with you. I'm based in Germany, responsible as the regional head of MCU marketing and business development in the EMEA region, and also taking certain responsibility in the American region. The company Giga Device, I think we were already talking about, and all of us know that, set up the office in Germany, and we have our entity here as a center for the European operation. Mm-hmm. So that's short about myself.
Well, for listeners who might be less familiar with Giga Device, can you give some background on the company and its role in the global semiconductor market?
Sure. Company Giga Device was founded in 2005. We are a leading fabless company in the semiconductor industry, and our first business since the very beginning is a flash memory, and today we are among the top 3, and actually we are ranked as a second largest NOR flash supplier. And if we only count the fabless suppliers, we are certainly the number 1. Our founder selected the flash memory business actually due to a lot of strategic reasons, but I can see that the decision that I made was quite right. And we definitely enjoyed a lot from the last 15, 20 years fast development in the market. And in 2013, actually, this is the foundation of our microcontroller business. At that time, it is also quite strategic, since we are already successful in the flash business, and we know that flash is also a very important foundation for the microcontrollers. At that time in China, there's nobody yet doing any 32-bit ARM-based microcontroller. But certainly this market is demanding a lot of microcontroller every day, every month, every year. So when the decision was made, we start to develop also our own microcontroller, first using the ARM, and we are very focused on the 32-bit architecture, because the 32-bit architecture is at that time already can be seen as the fastest development segment in the entire microcontroller segment. The company has also achieved a very steady growth in the last 10, 15 years. If we have the chance to take a look on the company's revenue development, it's really amazing. Every year we can make at least 15, 20% growth. in 2016, we were listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. And also beginning of this year, beginning of 2026, we are listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So today we are offering flash microcontroller into the semiconductor market. This is two biggest or largest business unit, but also we are providing sensors, mainly the fingerprint sensor and some other sensors, analog devices, power management units, and also last but not least, the DRAM business. We are offering the industrial and embedded system, the DDR memory, which is actually another very hot topic. And due to that, we achieved also brilliant fiscal year 2025, and moving forward in 2026, I see also a very, very good result from today's point of view.
And, looking at the industrial and consumer markets, what are some of the main trends and challenges that GigaDevice is tackling today? And more specifically with your GD32 MCU family that's on the market?
Yeah, certainly this is I will not say it's a commodity, but it's a very huge market already. I mean, if we can take a look around everybody's living room, you see actually the 32-bit microcontrollers everywhere. It is in your LED lamp, it is in your desktop monitor, it is in your home appliance, it's maybe on the floor, it's a vacuum robot, it's in the chair, it's in the table for the motor control. Yeah, it's definitely everywhere. And the challenge, I will say, is actually to say first whether we can continue drive the efficiency of the product. The efficiency means not only the power efficiency, but also a kind of cost efficiency. The industrial competition is quite crucial, and we know that also due to the latest global market and global supply chain changes, people are talking about supply chain diversity, supply chain resilience. So on top of that, still we have to achieve certain cost advantage and bring the benefit in the end to our customer and the end customer of them. It's a very important target for us. It's also a kind of opportunity for us to be born in China, because we know it's already a kind of world factory in China. So especially for consumer, for industrial products, we see a lot of supply chain integration or kind of centralized manufacturing center in China. But also any semiconductor company must go broader and go to the global market. So that's also the next chapter for GigaDevice. And with the GD32, we are definitely quite keen in terms of a global market expansion. So we are probably one of the first Chinese semiconductors really established a very well organized global networks, with also the international headquarters sitting in Singapore. We are ready to go to the global stage, and I'm very confident about that.
Awesome. I know GigaDevice has a lot of importance in ecosystem development, like tools, software, and developer support. I just wanted to know, how you guys practice ecosystem maturity when competing in today's MCU market.
Well, that's a very good question, because the industrial understand very well that ecosystem is a key for successful microcontroller development and introduction. So from very beginning, we are working with the international communities and the ecosystem providers. So not only the IDE, the debugger tools, but also the manufacturing, debugger, manufacturing tester equipments, vendors, and also different software and third-party providers. We step-by-step build up a very good ecosystem around the GD32. We're not only offering ARM-based product, but also the RISC-V-based 32-bit microcontroller. We are one of the first company to introduce a 32-bit microcontroller architecture based on RISC-V. And also the RISC-V is getting more and more interesting for the industry. So talking about hardware architectures, we know that ARM is still a very dominant architecture. So we see that ecosystem of the ARM is also a kind of decisive factor for our customer. Till today, still many of our customers, major customers, will say they will stay with ARM architecture. So we will also working very closely with ARM to further enrich our ecosystem for the market.
Awesome. And I know humanoid robotics are another important area or area focus for Giga Device. I just wanted to know some of the opportunities for the GD32 MCU within humanoid robotics applications.
That's another very hot topic. Perhaps you already noticed that just a couple of weeks ago, there was a humanoid robots marathon match in Beijing. And it's the first time that the humanoid robots runs faster than human being and even break the humans marathon record. I think that's a very significant milestone because just last year, the same match, we can see still the humanoid robots like a baby. So they can run, but they are not very stable. But the technology development and the iteration were so fast. So this year, the winner is really running so fast, so stable. And I'm very glad to say that the GD32 is inside the winner robots.
Wow.
So our GD32 is working as a control for the axle for some movement, and multiple GD32 devices were installed inside. So this opportunity for humanoid robots, I think, is also very important for the entire world. Today, it's really still in a very early experimental phase, but the industrial and also our capital market is so enthusiastic about the future of humanoid robots. We see certainly robots itself is not a new topic for us. So we have industrial robots, we have even some service robots. You can say also in the past, they are kind of intelligence machine, but the humanoid robots is trying to simulate the human's body shape, the arm, the hand, the legs, and the movement, because there are a lot of tasks, a lot of jobs. They are designed in the environment for our human being. And if we use another machine with wheel, or a machine can hardly move like a human being, they can hardly be integrated into such kind of environment. So in order to really make robots part of our life, I think humanoid robots is definitely the direction to go. Not only in the service area, but it definitely will come into family. And in the future, there will be a lot of different applications. So talking about the robots, it's not only just about AI, about the brain, but there is also a lot of junctions, bones, muscles. So you can imagine that what we have as a human body, we have a brain, we have a head, but we also a lot of other nerve and muscle controls. And inside the robot body, the heat control, the weight control is also requiring a certain integration of different communication and control circuits. This is certainly related to also a lot of real-time communications and algorithms for the motion control, for the sensor data fusion, and the reaction to different environment inputs. It's definitely a very interesting topic, but we are still in the very early age. I see that GigaDevice is already very well positioned. We're working with more than 400 humanoid robots customers. And this is already a huge number. It probably will go even further to another 3 digits or 4 digits number of the customers in the next couple of years. So I'm very positive here that GD32 will be very well positioned in this market, and this is definitely a booming market for the next decades.
Looking ahead, what are some of the major, technology areas or application areas where you see Giga Device making a big impact in, the next generation of embedded systems?
Yeah. So first, we just talked about the humanoid robots. I think we are going to further integrate different industrial bus interfaces with a high performance CPU to the microcontroller. And multiple interfaces of communication will definitely help to ease the design of the robots, and also to further reduce the cable of robots. Just if we take a look back to our founding history, so GigaDevice is worth taking the flash memory as our foundation. The business of flash will further grow, and we see a further technology development of the flash, especially in the new flash technologies, will bring us different implementation of flash memories. Plus the AI trend, certainly there will be a market demand to have high performance microcontroller with more edge control, edge AI functionalities, and certainly they are looking for even higher memory densities. We started our business with a unique technology at the very beginning. So our microcontrollers were integrated with a flash die inside the package. That was the first generation of our product. Today, we are still running on this approach in parallel to the pure embedded flash technology. So we have the multi-die product and also the single die product. We will certainly keep our path on these two directions. And especially for the multi-die product, we are going to integrate a new technology of memories to have higher density in both non-volatile and the random memory to bring the larger memory and the higher performance of the CPU to our market to support the further development of the edge AI. So this is definitely a very important future target for us. Then another one is to say that we are looking into also the wireless domain. So wireless connectivities, the dual band, high performance, high throughput wireless LAN and Bluetooth combo device. This is definitely another direction that we are going to strategically invest. Together with the memory technology and the future of GD32 microcontroller family is very promising.
Well, Ren, I think those are all the questions I have for you today. But as always, I'd like to ask if there's anything I might have missed or anything else you'd like to add.
Well, I would like to maybe add a few more background of our company. Personally, I feel it's a very good story sharing because I joined the company in 2022. And that's a time after my, let's say, almost 17, 18 years career in the semiconductors, but of course in other international semiconductor companies. The reason for me to join it is definitely I see a brilliant future of GigaDevice. And this is also back to our founders' strategic decision in 2005. That time when the flash memory was decided, certainly it's a kind of decision based on technology, but also a lot of other macro market factors impacting that. We see a very huge push of the Chinese semiconductor industry in the last 10, 15 years. With that, the market is looking for certainly a lot of memories, microcontrollers, but also the manufacturing technologies is fast or rapidly developed. With the foundry or the supply chain of the semiconductor in China, we gain a lot of benefit or advantages in terms of cost and supply chain response, faster response of the supply chain. And then we were all in this pandemic time. So in 2020, 2022, at that time, when the global semiconductor supply chain was severely impacted by the pandemic, our supply chain resilience definitely demonstrated its reliability to the entire market. At that time, we are probably one of the few suppliers who are able still to serve small to medium customers. Many of our other players in this market decided to focus on the automotive, large industry customers, so they have to prioritize their delivery. And a lot of small to medium-sized enterprise were suffering from them. At that time, it's not their fault, but it's a very painful decision, I have to say. I'm also very proud that it is a time that GigaDevice served a lot of European and American customers. And I would say even we rescued those companies because a lot of them were really facing zero delivery from semiconductor suppliers. But any enterprise cannot stop their production, and the employee need the business to pay for their rent, to pay for the family costs. So it's also a kind of social responsibility that we demonstrated in the global market, which becomes now a very nice foundation for the further global expansion of the business. So it is definitely a very good story for me to share to everyone, especially in the European and American market.
Now, here's Rolf Seger of Seger.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Embedded Executive Podcast. My name is Rich Ness. I am with Embedded Computing Design. This week, my guest is Rolf Seger, who you probably know. He's the founder of Seger. I was going to make a joke about, I hope he didn't spend a lot of money on marketing for the name of the company, but I'll just pass on that. In our pre-call, I have to let the audience know that one of the things we talked about was that one thing that you and I have in common is that we tend to always tell the truth. For better or worse, we tell the truth. So that never comes back to bite you. So I'm going to hold you to that, Rolf. Okay?
Absolutely. Okay. And I like the marketing thing. I never looked at it that way, that it's an inexpensive way to name the company. Didn't spend much on the marketing, but it turns out, I mean, I'm fortunate. Seger is actually a pretty good name in a sense that people can remember it. Everybody can pronounce it. It's a good name, so I don't regret it.
Well, you didn't consider Rolf microcontroller?
I don't think, I mean, I'm personally, it's a different story. I'm not very happy with my first name. I mean, it could be worse, but Rolf, a lot of people have a hard time pronouncing it. So when I go to a Starbucks, for example, they're asking for the name they put on the cup. I usually say Mike, but Mike microcontrollers doesn't sound good. Seger is pretty good. I'm quite happy. Besides, now it's a little late to change it.
I agree. Totally agree. And it is certainly well known in the industry, as are you. So I'm very pleased that you took some time out of your busy schedule to join me. The topic that I want to talk to you about is something that it seems as if Sager has developed internally, but could very well be used industry-wide. And I believe it's something you call MApps, which is short for embedded apps. Do I have this right?
You have that absolutely right. Spot on. You want me
Okay,
to
so
talk a
what
little
is
bit
that
about it?
exactly?
It's basically the ability or piece of software that allows an embedded system, technically not just an embedded system, you can run it on a PC, but anything that runs on the embedded system, you can basically run on a PC as well. It's just a bigger system. But it's designed for embedded systems, and it allows embedded systems to run apps. And if you think apps aren't we don't need apps in what I'm doing, I think you need to reconsider that, because MApps is extremely small. So footprint is just 3-4 kilobytes of flash memory on the target, and basically no RAM usage. And it allows you to download apps, to give apps to your embedded application, whether you download them via USB, Ethernet, whichever way, or put them on there via SD card, or whatever means you have is basically irrelevant. You can extend the functionality of your embedded device in a safe way using MApps.
When you say apps applications, what are you referring to? What sort of functions would this be?
It's completely up to you, the firmware designer. So,
well, give me an example.
Well, one simple example that as you mentioned before, we use it internally. So we use it for our Flasher in-system programmers, industry-leading top speed guarantee and everything. But the problem there was, initially we started with a Flasher, and it was able to program a couple of microcontrollers, handful. And then you add another one, you add another one, you add another one. And every time you do that, you recompile the firmware. And it's not great to distribute new firmwares all the time, but it's also not great because it bloats the firmware, it inflates the firmware. So we moved to a system where the flash loaders could actually be downloaded in RAM and executed in RAM. So that is how that started. We use it for a lot of other things, for example, J-Link as well. You know, in J-Link, you have a similar challenge. You have chips that need that particular sequence, say after reset, that is very much different from one chip to the next. And you have a very short time window, say 200 microseconds. And the 200 microseconds isn't enough to do it on the PC because your USB latencies are too long. So it needs to be done in the probe. Same thing, you have various different chips, and you don't want to recompile the firmware every time. So same thing, we can download an app that handles that, the time critical part. But it's also other things. It's good for us, but it's also good because we can give this type of program, this ability to the customer. We can give the customer basically an SDK. The customer asked me, are you going to add support for the so-and-so chip if we ever need it? I will say yes, and we're absolutely willing to do that, but you have to be aware that we have limited resources. So I can't guarantee that we can't drop everything if you need a new chip, but I don't want you to depend on Sega. You can always do it yourself. You can take the SDK and write the flash loader yourself. And the nice thing is, I mean, it's all sandbox. So even if somebody who's not world's greatest programmer screws up and accesses illegal memory, somehow screws up, it's no problem because it's all sandbox. The application simply stops executing, and that's it. So you can even give the ability to extend the functionality to your customers.
You know, we did a podcast not too long ago that on a subject that I think you're alluding to. And one of the issues with embedded devices is that they may be in the field for decades, and that's not unusual. But you have to keep updating them to make sure that you have the latest security on them, which is ultra important. However, one of the problems that we're starting to run into is that there isn't enough space to update to the latest because we just run out of memory on these things. Does this solve that problem?
Yes, in a way, I think it does, because different customers have different needs, and the app basically means you can put on whatever your specific needs are. It's very similar to what you have on your phone, right? On the phone, it has a certain basic functionality like phone, email, But then you add apps to it, and whatever it's the apps are basically what your specific needs are. So it could be a navigation system, it could be TikTok, WhatsApp, and whatnot. There's like thousands of apps out there, maybe 10,000s, but you only download the ones that you need. So instead of putting everything on your phone, you put on your phone what you need. There's a similar thing with the with MApps. You can basically you add what you need. So it does help to keep it small. I mean, in the example of the flasher, if we support, I think we're somewhere like 30,000 devices. We have thousands of different flash loaders. If you just assume one flash loader is a kilobyte and you have thousands, you have 5,000 of them, you're already at 5 megabyte, right? If you just download what you need, that is not a problem. If you add them all to the firmware, it makes the firmware very big and potentially too big for the amount of memory you have, especially as the thing grows. So yeah, it does. It definitely contributes to solving that problem.
This does sound like something that should be industry-wide. Are you doing something to help push it through the industry, or will this remain a Sega thing?
Well, it's a good question. I do things like that. We do press releases, we have the compiler online, and I do podcasts like this one to make people aware of it. So as an industry
will you go through a standards body to put it out there to make it, I don't know if generic is the right word, but to make it so it's not a Sega product?
Well, I mean, at Sega, we still need to make money somehow, right? But I wouldn't mind making some of it or all of it a standard, making it openly available. I'm open to the idea. Just our connections to the standards bodies aren't that good. But I'm open to the idea. It does sound like a good idea.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And frankly, between you and me and the people listening, I don't know if I'd go through the standards bodies either. I think just putting it out there and making it open is the right way to go.
You're probably right. So let me think about it.
Okay. So what would somebody have to do today if they wanted to use this? Is product the right word? Is it a product?
Yeah, product is the right word. It's basically a piece of software that they would have to get /license from us to try it out. It's easy. You can just go to the Sega website, you can download it, you can run it on the PC. I mean, as I said, you can execute the same apps on the PC if you have the same API, so sandbox execution there. You can try it out there. The compiler is available online, but if they want to use it in a product, they would have to get it and license it from us.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking. So you have the hooks built in to do compiling, debugging, and all that stuff, and you make it. I assume you're making it very easy for somebody who wants to do that.
That's exactly the idea. We also have a source code, a project available, so it is really easy to do, and it shouldn't take, for an experienced developer, it shouldn't take more than half a day to add this functionality to existing software.
And how do I make sure that it's secure? Because I'm uploading my apps to Sega now, right?
No. You're not uploading your apps to Sega. How you distribute your apps is entirely up to you. So, for example, on the Flasher, the way you put an app on there is you can run it in mass storage device mode. So you basically press the button and it acts like a USB stick. So you can put it on like this. Or you can put it on via USB. It has the apps have nothing to do with Sega. You're independent of Sega. So
Okay.
how you deploy the apps is entirely through you, and Sega doesn't have Sega just provides the software, and then what you do with the apps, what functionality your apps you make available to your apps, and how you just deploy the apps, entirely up to you.
Okay. So what can somebody expect to see in MApps 2.0?
Good question. MApps 2.0, we're just about to release it, and we're adding a native code generator. So apps, if you will, if I say they have a problem, it's exaggerated. They're really small. Well, there's one downside to apps is the execution is not as fast as a native code, right? So they basically get interpreted. So we look at the opcode and then do whatever that opcode says. You know, the virtual processor is a 16-bit processor. It's similar to an ARM or RISC-V or RISC-V-E, I should say. We just started from scratch and gave it a really good, efficient instruction set. In any case, it gets interpreted, and the speed is less than that of the target system. We have two different interpreters. One is C code, so highly portable, runs on anything. And we have an ARM optimized version. The ARM optimized version, you get to about factor 30, 40 that you're slower than the native system. That sounds, at first glance, it sounds really slow, but it isn't really that slow, because for most operations, it's good enough. And anything that's really time consuming, you can always put in the firmware. For example, on the flasher, we have things like memcopy or compute CRC in the firmware. So the time critical stuff you can put in the firmware. However, faster is always better. And what we've done is we've came up with this native code generator. So it translates the application code for the virtual processor. We call it the S32. S, as you may have guessed, stands for Sega. So the S32 CPU, we translate those into native code for ARM, for a Thumb2 processor. We could also do a native code converter, code generator for other processors like RISC-V, but currently we have it for the most common platform, that we also use, which is ARM Thumb2. And we achieve an amazing, like 30% of the native speed. So you run a dry stone on this thing. I can download a dry stone, and it achieves about 30% of the native speed of what the ARM controller can do if I compile it on a high-end ARM compiler directly. And that's pretty amazing. And the 30% includes sandbox checking, right? If you compile a program on the ARM, there's no sandbox checking. You have to use an MMU or an MPU to make sure there's no memory access violation if you wanted to monitor that. With MApps, it can all be done in software, and we still achieve 30%. I think it's pretty amazing. So that's what's new in 2.0, and I think it's absolutely ready for the world.
That's great stuff. I want to ask you something. I want to change gears completely, and if you don't want to do this, we can cut this part out. But you sit in a great position to answer this. In a year or two, will we even need programmers because of AI?
That's a difficult question, right? How do one smart person say predictions are hard, especially when they concern the future, right? And especially and AI hasn't made it any easier. I find the trend of change, the speed of change in our world has definitely accelerated. So when I was 10 or so, we had a telephone, had a rotary dial, right? And then how things have been progressing, but not that fast. But the changes we've seen lately are changes accelerating, and AI is going to accelerate it even more. And I think the same thing is happening for programmers that we see, say, in the legal field. You no longer need like the juniors, right? You need the seniors. You need the seniors to feed the AI, and you need the seniors to verify what the AI does is the right thing. So will some people lose their jobs in programming? I think so, long term. Yes, probably yes. But how badly the effect is hard to say. The good thing in the embedded field is that at least you need people to verify it through hardware. So because it's hardware related, anything that runs completely on a host, I think AI can do almost itself, test it itself. Anything that is connected to an embedded system, to the real world, is harder to replace. But yes, a lot of people will lose their job down the road. It's a tough question. Like, what do you want to focus on if you are like 18, 19 right now? What is still going to be needed? I mean, I have a couple of examples, but I think that's too much for this podcast.
Yeah, we actually had a discussion a little while ago with somebody who runs an engineering department in an electrical engineering department in a very prominent U.S. university, and we asked him if the jobs he's preparing these seniors for are going to be there, and he said, "I don't know." So it's a little scary, and I'm certainly glad I'm not in that position.
I agree, it's a bit scary, but I think for the people who are really good and motivated, they don't have to worry. It's the people in the middle, like the people that basically say, "Yeah, I don't want to, Mr. Sega, I'd like to work for you, but as little as possible. I would not like to work on Fridays."
Hey,
So
if that
those
opening is
people-
there, you let me know because I'm a taker. Very good. Well, thank you, Rolf. I certainly appreciate you taking the time. And as we started this, we have been telling the truth, and that is very much appreciated.
Yeah, I try my best. I try to always be authentic and tell the truth.
Absolutely. That was Rolf Seger. He is the founder of Seger Microcontroller and I am Rich Nast with Embedded Computing Design.
Thank you, Rich. I enjoyed our talk. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Embedded Insiders. For more daily news, videos, and podcasts, visit our website at embeddedcomputing.com.